For a Palestinian perspective, I want to go across to Husam said Zomlot, the ambassador of the Palestinian Authority to the United Kingdom. Mr. Zomlot, welcome. It's been 1 month since the Hamas's dastardly attack across Israel. Every single call that's been made to Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for there to be some kind of a humanitarian ceasefire has been rejected. The IDF at this time determined not to stop till the time the Hamas has been wiped out. From a Palestinian perspective, how do you look at the last month and where we've reached so far, sir?
Well, right from the beginning of this, we have been warning the world that Israel, with its current prime minister and government, will only use what happened for a long-term plan of actually waging a war of genocide against the Palestinian people. And what has happened since the 7th of October proves that Israel has been hysteric. We have had genocidal rhetoric and discourse from Israel. And regrettably, some Western governments, primarily the US and the UK and others, have really at the beginning gave some sort of a green light for such an assault. And it was interpreted by those fanatics in the Israeli government as a carte blanche to do what they have been doing over the last month. This war of Israel is not against Hamas. This war of Israel is against the Palestinian people. As you know, more than 10,000 innocent civilians have lost their lives. Almost half of them are children. An utter destruction of homes, of hospitals, of schools, universities, utter destruction of the infrastructure, the unprecedented humanitarian catastrophe in every sense. The UN and UN agencies are telling us horrifying accounts of sheer human suffering. Hospitals are running out of generators and fuel and electricity. You have babies in incubators that might die because of these incubators running out of energy. And you're talking about the break out of diseases among populations. Israel has forced hundreds of thousands of Palestinians to leave their homes to the south under the pretext that the south is safe. Yet they have been bombarding the south heavily, killing hundreds of Palestinian innocent civilians.
But Ambassador Zomlot, when leaders of the Hamas have been asked about, for example, something like tunnels, saying that, would civilians in Gaza get to use the tunnels? They've been reported to say, no, those tunnels are for Hamas fighters. The civilians are the responsibility of the United Nations. So it's not as if the Hamas, which is, for all practical purposes, the ruler of Gaza, has been wanting to take care of the Gazan civilians. They're only taking care of their military infrastructure and their fighters. They've left the civilians to their own mercy, so much so that in some cases civilians haven't been allowed to leave because the Hamas wanted some protection to save themselves from the IDF's attack.
You go and ask a Hamas spokesperson for that. I'm the wrong person to ask that question. However, the only ruler of Gaza is Israel. Israel fully occupies Gaza. It decides who comes in, who comes out. It decides even the level of food, water, electricity, telecommunication, internet, what have you. And Gaza has been under draconian siege by Israel for the last 16 years. And therefore, Israel is in a state of full military occupation of Gaza, the West Bank and East Jerusalem, as per international consensus for the last 56 years. Now, as an occupier, Israel has the responsibility, the full responsibility, as per international resolutions and international provisions, to protect civilians under its military occupation. What we have seen over the last month, as we have been seeing over a 75-year period, Israel deliberately targets civilians. This is a military doctrine in Israel. Whenever there is such a confrontation, they go after the civilians, they go after the civil structures, and the doctrine goes like, once they terrorize the civilians, they would pressure the fighters. And the UN has provided shelters for the Palestinian people in Gaza over the last month, but Israel has been bombarding these shelters. I met senior UN officials the last couple of days, and they give me an unimaginable account of what is happening in their shelters. They have no fuel for their trucks to bring water or electricity. Diseases are spreading, and the situation is simply horrific in every sense. So we must stop here blaming the victims all the time, and we must stop finding excuses for the Israeli atrocious, murderous attacks against innocent people that has been reported all over the world, including your own channel. What is happening is crimes against humanity. What is happening is tantamount to genocide. And now what we need is first to ceasefire, to immediate ceasefire, to stop the aggression against our people. We need to think about how do we exchange hostages and relieve people. We need to think about a huge, massive humanitarian aid and assistance corridors from all over the world, including from our brothers and sisters in India, to elevate the unprecedented human suffering in Gaza caused by Israel. We need to think
one of
about
the big questions, Ambassador, that's being asked.
We need to think about what Israel is doing in the West Bank. It's not just Gaza. We need to follow what the Israeli illegal militias, settlers, wreaking havoc in the West Bank, rampage in every sense, killing many Palestinian innocent people as we speak. And therefore, this is not just the Gaza situation. This is all over the Palestinian territory. And therefore, we must get the record right, and we must not parrot what Israel comes out with, especially that the Israeli politicians have been hysteric, genocidal, and we need grown-ups in this conversation. And it must be countries like India, like other major countries, that really provide sanity now before it's too late. And we need to bring everything back to the root causes, and we need to tell Israel and the world that it is about time that the Palestinian people regain their rights. It's about time that the occupation ends. It's about time that international resolutions are implemented, and it is about time that international accountability is upheld, and everybody who commits war crimes are brought to justice.
One of the big questions is what happens the day after. It's quite likely, given the military prowess of the Israel Defense Forces, that they will be able to vanquish the Hamas in this war, and then Israel will once again control Gaza. The question is, will the Palestinian Authority step in to administer Gaza along with an Arab coalition? A lot of conversation at this time globally about who will run Gaza once the IDF wins. Will the Palestinian Authority want to be a part of this effort?
Gaza is part of the Palestinian occupied territory, and the people in Gaza are Palestinian people, our people, and the Palestinian Authority never left Gaza. The main services, be it health, be it education, be it what have you, is provided by the Palestinian Authority. So this talk is again a spend from Israel. In fact, Israel just cut funding, not funding, that's the wrong word, our own revenues, our own money that we send to Gaza. So Israel is not really undermining or eradicating Hamas. Israel is eradicating the Palestinian people. They are eradicating our families, our structures, our institutions. They are eradicating the Palestinian people hope, and the state of helplessness and hopelessness will create much more longer complications. That's why we call for an immediate ceasefire, and that's why we want a focus on the long term, because everything we do right now will affect the long term. We need to give people hope, and hope can only come from a confirmation that the oppression and suppression of the Palestinian people have got to end. It's been too long, my friend, 75 years, that this is about time when the world wakes up and say enough is enough, and that the lesson that we learn, that there is no security solution to this, no military solution to this, and there will never be a military solution. And who is going to take over Gaza? The Palestinian people will take over Gaza, and the Palestinian people have their legitimate representatives. But that legitimate representation, which is the PLO, will only be able to control all the Palestinian territories, the West Bank, Jerusalem, and Gaza once liberated, and that should be the state of Palestine that would provide protection for our people in Gaza, in Jerusalem, and in the West Bank. The way Israel talks about it is rejected completely and utterly. We do not accept partial or security solutions to Gaza. It has to be political and legal, where Gaza is part of the state of Palestine, and the government of the state of Palestine is the PLO, and we are ready to liberate the land and take over the responsibility of providing protection and services to our people.
On the question of escalation, one of the big questions this time is, 1 month on, is there likely to be escalation on the part of the Hezbollah, the Houthis, the Syrians, and potentially even Iran. From your perspective, we saw Hassan Nasrallah make very combatful comments, but not necessarily signaling direct confrontation. How do you view in the PLO the question of escalation?
The Palestinian-Israeli conflict, the Palestinian cause is a Palestinian matter. And this is a people struggle for freedom, for liberation, for independence, for rights, legitimate rights. And we need the support of the Arab world. We need the support of the international community, including India. And you know, we have a historic relationship with India during the non-alliance movement and until now. We need the support of the people of the world, like during the anti-apartheid movement of South Africa. We need support in the moral sense, in the political sense, and in the legal sense, and the popular sense, as you have seen in the streets of London, of New York, Washington, of Paris and Berlin, of New Delhi, and everywhere in the world that we need. But we do not need any country in this world, including Iran, to hijack our cause or to use our cause for their own calculations. We need support and solidarity, and the Palestinian people struggle is upon us. We need to make sure that we continue the struggle and to fight for our future with the support for our rights, not for any regional calculations.
Okay.